Kia ora. In the news, Finance Minister Bill English plans to block a Labour bill doubling paid parental leave because the cost will be too tough on taxpayers. Family law expert Professor Mark Henehan says that gives supporters the chance to prepare their argument.
And there is many economic arguments, as I understand it, for it as there are against it, so it needs a lot more airing than to just do that as a reaction.
Mr English says he's open to extending the package once the country's back in surplus, following other priorities.
Put the first couple of billion of surpluses into the New Zealand Super Fund, so that's just one priority, and then there'll be all the other pressures on a public service such as health services.
Labour says the government's social housing program needs considerable assistance and fast. MP Annette King told New Zealand's Rhema that first home seekers, struggling mortgaged homeowners and tenants are increasingly vulnerable. She says the government shouldn't just focus on trying to reduce spending.
Is to say nothing is affordable and the economy comes first and people just have to wait. Well, that's all very well if you're not one of those living in an overcrowded, cold, damp house.
2 divers working on the Rhema have been dismissed for helping themselves to the spoils. Svitzer Salvage says they may have only been taking small amounts of wine from the wreck, but that behaviour won't be tolerated. A local scientist has welcomed the findings of a consultation document on the emissions trading scheme. Brian Leyland told New Zealand's Rhema the turnaround makes more sense than the original policy.
The problem is that all the things that were proposed to be done in the way of carbon dioxide reduction, when they were put through the climate models, showed that the effect on the world's climate would be tiny.
The All Blacks and New Zealand Rugby Union have picked Cure Kids as their charity of choice. Cure Kids funds research into life-threatening illnesses, and CEO Vicky Lee told New Zealand's Rhema the partnership with New Zealand's rugby stars is great news.
Oh, the children, they just couldn't believe their rugby heroes. They were all there, and we're going to be able to get the Cure Kids message out throughout New Zealand.
North Korea is counting down to a rocket launch that has been widely condemned by the international community. Authorities invited foreign journalists to a satellite control centre and showed the latest preparations. Officials said the rocket would launch sometime between now and Monday, depending on weather conditions. The deadline for a UN-brokered ceasefire in Syria has passed without reports of major violence. The truce came into effect this afternoon. In the US, a neighbourhood watch volunteer will face criminal charges for killing an unarmed teenager in February. Prosecutors say there's enough evidence to file second-degree murder charges against George Zimmerman in the fatal shooting of Trayvon Martin. The incident sparked a national outcry led by the victim's parents, who believe it's a race crime. Doctors in Argentina are said to be amazed by the improving condition of a baby girl who was left for dead in a hospital morgue. She was delivered 3 months premature and was pronounced stillborn, only to be found alive in a coffin by her father nearly 12 hours later. That's today's news. Paul Marie.